Awakening to self-awareness is the first and most vital step in discovering your inner compass, the invisible force that guides you toward authenticity, peace, and purpose. It is the beginning of a lifelong journey inward, a turning of attention from the noise of the outer world to the quiet truth that resides within. Before self-awareness dawns, we often live unconsciously, moving through life on autopilot, reacting to circumstances, and chasing goals without truly understanding why. We follow external maps drawn by society, family, or culture, believing they will lead us to happiness, yet often find ourselves lost or unfulfilled. The awakening of self-awareness changes everything because it shifts the center of your life from the outside world to your inner world. It invites you to pause, observe, and ask the simplest yet most profound question: who am I really? In the beginning, this awakening may feel unsettling because it challenges your familiar identity. You start to see that much of what you believed about yourself was built on external influences, what others told you to be, how you were conditioned to behave, what you thought you needed to achieve to be loved or accepted. Self-awareness gently peels away these layers, not to destroy them, but to reveal what lies beneath. Your essence, your true self, untainted by comparison or expectation. It is like cleaning a fogged mirror. At first, the image is unclear, but as you wipe away the mist, you begin to see your reflection more clearly. That clarity is the light of awareness, and once it begins to shine, it changes how you perceive everything. Awakening to self-awareness requires courage because it demands honesty. It asks you to look at your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without running away or pretending. You begin to notice the patterns that drive you, the fears that limit you, the desires that motivate you, and the beliefs that shape your choices. This process isn't about judgment or self-criticism. It's about understanding. When you observe yourself from a place of compassion, awareness becomes healing. You start to see that your reactions are not who you are. They are simply expressions of unhealed parts of you asking for attention. Awareness transforms pain into wisdom because it allows you to respond rather than react. Instead of being lost in emotion, you begin to witness it. Instead of being trapped by thought, you learn to observe it. That space between awareness and reaction is where freedom begins. As you cultivate awareness, you also start to see how disconnected most people are from their inner compass. Many live according to borrowed beliefs, chasing careers, relationships, and lifestyles that look successful but feel empty. You recognize this pattern because you've lived it too. This recognition marks the turning point, the moment you realize that the true direction of life cannot be found outside yourself. The world can offer options, opportunities, and advice, but only your inner awareness can tell you which path is right for you. This is the beginning of wisdom, the realization that everything you seek has always been within you. Self-awareness deepens through reflection, spending quiet moments alone, journaling your thoughts, or simply sitting in stillness helps you reconnect with your inner world. The more you reflect, the more you understand the motives behind your actions. You begin to notice when you're acting from fear instead of love, from ego instead of authenticity. You may discover that much of your striving for achievement or approval was driven by the need to fill an inner void. Awareness doesn't condemn these realizations. It liberates you from them. Once you see the root of your behavior, you can choose differently. That choice, born from awareness, becomes the first sign that your inner compass is awakening. In the stillness of awareness, something miraculous happens. You start to feel a deeper presence within yourself, a quiet observer who is not disturbed by the chaos of the mind or the storms of emotion. This presence is your true self, the conscious awareness beneath all your experiences. When you connect with it, you realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. You are not your fear, anger, or doubt. You are the awareness in which they arise and fade. This realization gives you power, because now, instead of being controlled by external forces, you begin to act from inner clarity. Awareness awareness becomes your anchor, helping you stay centered even when life feels uncertain or overwhelming. As this awareness grows, your perception of others also changes. You begin to see that everyone is doing the best they can with their current level of awareness. This understanding softens your heart and expands your compassion. You stop taking things personally because you realize that others' actions often reflect their own inner struggles. Self-awareness, therefore, becomes the foundation not only of personal growth, but also of empathy and connection. The more you understand yourself, the easier it becomes to understand others. The journey inward doesn't isolate you. It connects you to humanity in a more authentic and compassionate way. The awakening of self-awareness also brings a subtle but profound sense of responsibility. You realize that your life is a reflection of your inner state. If you want to change your reality, you must first change the way you think, feel, and act. You begin to see that every choice you make, what you focus on, how you respond, what you believe, shapes your experience of life. This realization is both humbling and empowering. It shows you that you are not a victim of circumstance, but a creator of your path. The more aware you become, the more conscious your creation becomes. Life starts to feel less like a random series of events and more like a meaningful unfolding of your inner growth. This first stage, awakening to self-awareness, lays the foundation for everything that follows. Without awareness, there can be no genuine self-knowledge, and without self-knowledge, the inner compass remains hidden. Awareness is the light that reveals your direction. It doesn't give you instant answers, but opens the space for truth to emerge naturally. As you grow more aware, you begin to sense a deeper pull within, a desire to live in alignment with what truly matters to you, not what the world expects. This pull leads to the next stage, understanding your true values and beliefs. Because once you awaken to yourself, the next question naturally arises. Now that I see myself clearly, what do I truly stand for? What are the principles that guide my decisions, the values that define my integrity, and the beliefs that either limit or empower me? Awareness awakens the compass, but it is your values that give it direction. And so, the journey continues. From simply knowing yourself to living in harmony with what you know to be true. Understanding your true values and beliefs is the next crucial step after awakening to self-awareness, for it transforms observation into direction. Awareness shows you who you are. Values show you where to go. Without clarity about your values, life becomes a series of random choices influenced by circumstance, emotion, or other people's expectations. You may achieve success or reach milestones, but without alignment to your inner truth, those achievements often feel hollow. Understanding your true values is like discovering the coordinates that your inner compass uses to navigate life. They are not imposed by society or religion or culture. They emerge from the depth of your being, reflecting what truly gives your life meaning. When you begin to explore your values, the first thing you notice is how many of your current beliefs are inherited rather than chosen. Since childhood, you've been surrounded by messages about what's important: success, approval, wealth, reputation, or control. These ideas shape your early sense of self and guide your decisions before you even realize it. When self-awareness awakens, you start to question them. You begin to ask, do these values genuinely reflect who I am, or are they just borrowed patterns I've absorbed from others? This questioning can feel unsettling, but it is the beginning of freedom. Because the moment you start to differentiate between what is truly yours and what has been conditioned into you, you start to reclaim your authentic self. Understanding your true values is not about rejecting everything you've been taught. It's about filtering it through the lens of awareness. It's about asking yourself what truly matters to you when all external noise fades away. You might realize that while society glorifies competition, your heart values cooperation. While others chase wealth, you value inner peace. While some define success through status, you define it through service, creativity, or love. These realizations are deeply personal and can only emerge through honest introspection. The process requires stillness, moments where you step back from doing and simply feel what resonates with your soul. One way to uncover your values is to reflect on moments when you felt most alive and at peace. What were you doing? Who were you with? What made those moments meaningful? Often, your values reveal themselves through the experiences that light you up from within. For instance, if you felt most fulfilled while helping others, compassion or contribution may be core values. If you felt most alive while creating art, perhaps authenticity and expression are central to you. Values are not abstract concepts. They are the emotional truths that make you feel aligned with your purpose. When you act according to them, you feel in harmony with yourself. When you betray them, you feel restless and conflicted. Understanding your beliefs is equally important because they form the invisible structure behind your values. Beliefs are the assumptions you hold about yourself, life, and the world. They can either support your growth or hold you back. For example, if you believe I'm not capable enough, that belief limits your potential no matter how strong your desire. If you believe life always supports me, that belief empowers you to act with confidence, even in uncertainty. Awareness helps you see these patterns clearly so you can decide which beliefs to keep, which to challenge, and which to transform. Many people are ruled by subconscious beliefs that they never examine. Bringing them to light is a form of liberation. Once you identify your core values and supportive beliefs, you begin to notice how they shape your decisions. Choices that once felt confusing start to become clearer. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" you start asking, "What aligns with who I truly am?" This subtle shift changes everything. You stop chasing approval because you no longer need the world to validate your direction. You start saying no to things that drain your energy and yes to things that nurture your soul. Your values become a silent guide, a compass that points you toward integrity. You begin to measure success, not by what you gain externally, but by how deeply you remain aligned internally. However, this alignment often demands courage because living by your true values can sometimes go against social norms or the expectations of others. You may have to let go of relationships, habits, or roles that no longer resonate with your truth. You may face criticism or misunderstanding from those who are still living by borrowed beliefs. Yet, every act of integrity strengthens your connection to your inner compass. The discomfort of standing alone in truth is temporary. The peace it brings is eternal. When you honor your values, you stop fragmenting yourself to please others. You become whole. And that wholeness radiates strength and clarity. Another aspect of understanding your true values is realizing that they evolve as you grow. What mattered deeply to you 5 years ago may no longer feel the same today, and that's not inconsistency. It's evolution. As awareness deepens, your understanding of what is truly meaningful refines itself. You may start valuing simplicity over complexity, depth over distraction, authenticity over perfection. Staying connected to your values means regularly checking in with yourself, not out of doubt, but out of devotion to truth. Your inner compass is not a rigid instrument. It's a living, breathing guide that adjusts as you expand. This stage connects beautifully with the next, listening to intuition as inner guidance. Once you have awakened self-awareness and clarified your values, a natural question arises. How do I apply this understanding in everyday life? Awareness and values give you clarity, but intuition gives you direction in the moment. It is the voice of your soul that interprets your values into real-time choices. Where awareness observes and values define, intuition guides. Together, they form the trinity of inner wisdom. So, as you move forward, the task is not just to know your truth, but to listen to it, to hear the subtle whispers of intuition that align your life with the deep knowing that self-awareness and values have awakened within you. Listening to intuition as inner guidance is the bridge between knowing yourself and living according to that knowledge. It is the transformation of awareness and values into moment-to-moment direction, a sacred dialogue between the conscious mind and the deeper intelligence of the soul. While self-awareness gives you understanding, and your values provide a foundation, intuition is the living compass that points you toward the right path in every situation. It is the whisper beneath thought, the quiet nudge that says this feels right even when logic cannot explain why. To truly listen to intuition is to trust the wisdom that rises from within rather than always seeking validation from the outside world. It is learning to feel your way through life instead of only thinking your way through it. Intuition is not a mystical power reserved for a few. It is a natural faculty present in every human being. However, it often remains buried under layers of noise. Fear, doubt, overthinking, and the constant input of information that the modern world demands. The rational mind, trained to analyze, categorize, and prove, tends to dominate, while the subtle language of intuition gets dismissed as irrational or untrustworthy. Yet, intuition is older and wiser than logic. It is the voice of accumulated wisdom, not just from your experiences, but from the deeper consciousness that connects you to life itself. When you learn to listen to it, you discover that it never misleads you. Its guidance may not always make immediate sense, but when followed with faith, it always leads you toward growth, truth, and peace. The process of listening to intuition begins with stillness. You cannot hear a whisper in a storm, and similarly, you cannot hear your intuition when your mind is crowded with noise. That is why awareness and clarity of values come first. They prepare the ground for intuition to be heard. When you cultivate inner quiet through reflection, meditation, or simply mindful presence, your intuition begins to rise to the surface. It often comes as a feeling rather than a thought, a sense of expansion or contraction, ease or discomfort, clarity or tension. The body becomes the instrument through which intuition speaks. When something aligns with your truth, you feel a natural lightness, a sense of yes. When something isn't right, you feel heaviness or unease. The more you pay attention to these sensations, the clearer your inner guidance becomes. However, listening to intuition requires trust, a kind of faith that is developed through experience. At first, it may be difficult to distinguish intuition from fear or impulse. Fear often speaks loudly and urgently, while intuition speaks softly, but with certainty. The difference is in the energy. Fear constricts, intuition expands. Fear comes from the mind's desire to protect. Intuition comes from the soul's desire to evolve. The more you listen and act upon your intuitive nudges, the more you begin to recognize their signature. Over time, you build a relationship with your inner voice, and trust replaces doubt. You realize that intuition is not random. It is the language of your higher self communicating through feeling and awareness. Following intuition often means stepping into uncertainty, because it does not always offer explanations. The mind seeks guarantees, while intuition simply says, take this step. Many people hesitate here because they want certainty before they act. Yet intuition doesn't reveal the whole path, only the next step. Like walking through fog, you only see a little ahead. But as you move forward, more of the path becomes visible. The key is to move with faith, not fear. Every time you honor your inner guidance, even when it defies logic, you strengthen your connection with it. Life begins to flow more effortlessly. Opportunities appear, synchronicities unfold, and you realize that you are being gently led toward exactly where you need to be. Intuition also acts as a protector. It warns you when something or someone is not in alignment with your truth, even before you have evidence. How many times have you ignored that subtle inner feeling, only to realize later that it was right all along? Learning to trust that early signal can save you from unnecessary pain and confusion. Similarly, intuition can guide you toward opportunities that logic might dismiss as impossible or risky. It nudges you toward people, places, and experiences that expand your soul's growth. In this way, it becomes your most faithful ally, one that sees beyond appearances and understands the deeper patterns of life. The relationship between intuition and your values is profound. Your intuition will always lead you toward actions that are consistent with your true values and away from what violates them. That is why it's essential to first clarify what you stand for. Otherwise, fear and desire can masquerade as intuition. Once you are grounded in your values, you can recognize intuition as the voice of alignment, the bridge between your inner truth and the outer world. For example, if one of your values is honesty, your intuition will signal discomfort whenever you are tempted to hide your truth. If your value is growth, your intuition will encourage you to take risks that challenge your comfort zone. In this way, intuition serves as the real-time navigator for your inner compass, ensuring your actions reflect your deepest truth. Listening to intuition also deepens your relationship with life itself. You begin to sense that the universe is not a random chaos, but a living intelligence that communicates through signs, patterns, and synchronicities. When you are attuned to your intuition, you notice how everything connects. A conversation, a song, a dream, or even a delay in plans can carry meaning or guidance. Intuition allows you to move through life not as a separate being trying to control everything, but as part of a greater flow that supports your journey. Sense of connection brings peace because you no longer feel alone or lost. You realize that something larger than your mind is guiding you. Yet intuition is not meant to replace reason. It complements it. The most powerful decisions arise when intuition and logic work together. Logic gives you the tools to analyze and plan, while intuition ensures that your plans align with truth. Logic operates from the known. Intuition comes from the unknown. Together, they create balance, the harmony of heart and mind. When you listen to intuition first, and then use reason to act upon it wisely, you make choices that are both inspired and grounded. As your intuition grows stronger, you begin to experience a quiet confidence. You stop overanalyzing every decision because you trust your inner compass. You no longer seek constant reassurance because you feel guided from within. This inner certainty becomes unshakable, even when life's circumstances are uncertain. You realize that intuition is not just a tool for decision-making, it is a way of being, a state of inner attunement where your soul and the universe move as one, and this leads naturally into the next stage, aligning choices with inner truth, because intuition, awareness, and values have no power unless they are lived. Listening is only half the journey. Acting upon what you hear is the other half. Once you learn to trust your intuition, the next step is to bring that guidance into your daily choices, to let your life reflect the truth that your soul keeps whispering. It is through this alignment of intuition and action that the inner compass fully comes alive. Aligning choices with inner truth is the natural evolution of self-knowledge and intuition. It is where wisdom turns into action, where the inner compass becomes the living force that shapes the outer path. Self-awareness gives you clarity, values provide a foundation, and intuition offers direction, but all of these mean little unless they are expressed through the choices you make each day. This stage is about integrity. Not the kind that is merely moral or social, but the kind that means wholeness, where your thoughts, emotions, and actions move in harmony with your authentic self. Aligning choices with inner truth is not simply doing what feels good, it is doing what feels right at the deepest level, even when it's difficult, inconvenient, or misunderstood by others. It means living from the inside out, rather than from the outside in. When you begin to align your choices with your inner truth, your life starts to feel coherent. You are no longer pulled in opposing directions by inner conflict or external pressure. You stop saying yes when you mean no. Stop pretending to be someone you're not, and stop chasing what others define as success. Instead, your choices begin to reflect your authentic essence. You choose relationships that honor your boundaries, work that expresses your creativity, and goals that nourish your soul. Every choice becomes a mirror of your truth, and this alignment brings an immense sense of peace, because peace is not found in control or perfection. It is found in congruence, in living a life that feels true to who you are inside. However, aligning with your inner truth is not always easy. It often requires courage, because your truth will sometimes lead you against the tide of conformity. Society teaches us to value approval, comfort, and success, often at the cost of authenticity. The moment you begin to act from your truth, you may encounter resistance from others and from your own fears. People may question your decisions, your mind may doubt your path, but this resistance is part of the purification process. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you strengthen your soul. Every time you honor your inner voice instead of the outer noise, you become freer. Authentic alignment is not a one-time act. It's a daily practice of choosing honesty even in the smallest moments, because truth builds upon itself. The more you live it, the more powerful and natural it becomes. The beauty of aligning with your truth is that it simplifies life. Decisions that once felt confusing begin to reveal themselves with clarity. You no longer need to calculate every outcome or manipulate every situation, because your inner compass guides you. When something resonates with your truth, it feels expansive and alive. When it doesn't, it feels heavy or forced. This simple awareness becomes your guide. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What feels true?" That shift changes everything, because when your actions come from truth, they are supported by a deeper energy, what many call grace. Doors open, opportunities align, and even challenges become meaningful because they are all part of your authentic evolution. There is also humility in living this way. Aligning choices with inner truth does not mean you will never make mistakes. It means you trust that even mistakes can serve your growth. Sometimes you may follow a path that seems right but leads to difficulty, and yet that difficulty becomes the very experience that deepens your self-understanding. Truth is not rigid. It evolves as you evolve. The key is to remain faithful to the deeper movement of your soul, not the fixed image of who you think you should be. Each choice is an act of alignment with the present truth, and as your consciousness expands, your sense of truth becomes more refined, more luminous. To align with truth, you must also let go of the fear of judgment. Many people know what is true for them, but hesitate to live it because they fear rejection, criticism, or failure. But the cost of living against your truth is far greater than the discomfort of being misunderstood. When you betray your truth to please others, you lose connection with yourself. And when you lose yourself, no amount of approval or success can fill the emptiness that follows. True fulfillment comes from the integrity of being whole, of knowing that your outer life reflects your inner knowing. So aligning with truth requires both vulnerability and strength. The vulnerability to be seen as you are, and the strength to stand by it even when the world does not understand. When your choices are rooted in truth, your relationships also transform. You begin to attract people who resonate with your authenticity and release those who are aligned with your mask. Your connections deepen because they are based on honesty rather than pretense. Similarly, your work takes on new meaning because it expresses your purpose rather than just fulfilling an obligation. Every aspect of your life starts to vibrate with coherence. This alignment brings not only peace but also power. Not the power of control, but the power of presence, of living in harmony with your essence. This stage also integrates everything that came before it. Awareness gave you the map of who you are. Values gave you the foundation. Intuition gave you direction, and now alignment gives you movement. Together, they create the full expression of the inner compass, a life that moves in rhythm with your soul. But this journey doesn't end here, because even when you begin to live from your truth, challenges still arise. The next step is learning to navigate uncertainty and doubt, for even the truest path can be clouded by fear or confusion. When life tests your alignment, when the path ahead seems unclear, it is your connection with the inner compass that keeps you steady, and that is the next stage of the journey. Learning to trust your truth, even when the world around you seems uncertain. Navigating uncertainty and doubt is the next step in the journey of living by your inner compass. Once you start aligning your choices with your inner truth, life will inevitably present challenges that test that alignment. There will be moments when the path ahead is unclear, when your faith wavers, and when your intuition seems silent. These are not signs that you are lost. They are invitations to deepen your trust in yourself. Uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the terrain through which inner wisdom strengthens and matures. Every moment of doubt holds a hidden lesson, teaching you how to stay centered even when nothing outside you feels stable. This stage of the journey is about learning to find security not in circumstances but in your own being. When you commit to following your truth, the universe begins to reorganize itself around that decision. Old patterns dissolve, familiar paths close, and new possibilities begin to form. But before they do, there's often a period of confusion. This is the in-between, the sacred space between who you were and who you are becoming. It can feel uncomfortable because your old identity is falling away, yet the new one hasn't fully taken shape. Many people mistake this uncertainty as failure or regression, but it is actually transformation in progress. Just as the seed must disintegrate before the sprout can emerge, your old ways of thinking must dissolve for a higher awareness to be born. The courage to stay in that space without rushing for answers is one of the greatest marks of inner maturity. In times of uncertainty, the mind craves control. It wants guarantees, timelines, and explanations. But the soul moves differently. It doesn't deal in certainties, it deals in faith. The inner compass cannot always show you the entire journey. It only illuminates the next step. That's why doubt feels so challenging. It demands you to act with incomplete information. But this is where growth happens. Each time you act in alignment with your intuition despite fear, you strengthen your trust in the unseen. You begin to realize that uncertainty is not chaos but creative potential, the fertile ground from which your next chapter will grow. Learning to rest in that unknown without panic allows new clarity to emerge naturally. Doubt, too, plays a sacred role. It is often portrayed as the opposite of faith, but in truth, it is a teacher of discernment. Doubt forces you to examine what you truly believe and why. It purifies your intentions, stripping away illusions and superficial motivations. When you doubt, you are not failing. You are refining. For example, when you doubt your path, you are invited to return to your inner truth and ask, is this truly mine? If the answer is yes, your conviction deepens. If the answer is no, doubt has saved you from self-betrayal. Thus, doubt can either weaken or strengthen you, depending on whether you use it as a reason to retreat or a reason to go deeper within. One of the most powerful ways to navigate uncertainty and doubt is through stillness. When confusion arises, the impulse is to do more, to fix, control, or decide quickly. But wisdom arises not from movement, but from presence. In silence, you reconnect with your intuition, which is often drowned out by mental noise. You begin to sense that even within chaos, there is an underlying order guiding you. This inner calm does not come from having all the answers, but from trusting that they will come in their own time. Meditation, journaling, or simply being in nature can all help restore this connection, reminding you that the same intelligence that moves the stars also moves within you. It's also essential to understand that uncertainty does not mean you are off your path. In fact, it is often a sign that you are expanding beyond old limits. The familiar feels safe, but growth requires stepping into the unknown. Each leap into uncertainty is a declaration of faith in your own soul. When you trust that your inner compass is guiding you, even when the outer map is blank, you discover a strength that is unshakable. You stop needing external confirmation because you feel anchored in something deeper, your own truth. Life becomes less about controlling the outcome and more about aligning with your purpose in each moment. The people who live most authentically are not those who never doubt, but those who move forward in spite of it. They understand that fear and faith often travel together. Courage is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to act from truth even when doubt whispers otherwise. The more you practice this, the more you realize that every uncertain step you've taken was never truly blind. Something within you was guiding the way all along. That realization turns uncertainty from an obstacle into a teacher. This stage also strengthens your relationship with intuition. When you walk through uncertainty, your sensitivity to subtle guidance sharpens. You start to notice small signs, a phrase in a book, a coincidence, an inner nudge that confirm you are on the right path. These moments of synchronicity are not random. They are the universe's way of affirming your alignment. Over time, you develop a quiet confidence, a knowing that even if you can't see the destination, the journey itself is sacred. Navigating uncertainty and doubt brings you into deeper humility and surrender. You begin to see that life is not something to be conquered, but something to be trusted. This surrender is not weakness. It is participation in the larger flow of existence. You stop resisting what is and instead move with it. This allows new insights, opportunities, and directions to appear naturally, often in ways you could never have planned. Life becomes more fluid, and even its unpredictability feels like part of a divine rhythm. Ultimately, learning to navigate uncertainty and doubt deepens your connection with your inner compass. It teaches you that truth is not found in perfect clarity, but in continuous trust. It shows you that your path is not linear, but alive, unfolding as you grow. Each moment of confusion is an invitation to return inward, to listen more deeply, and to act with faith. And when you live this way, you realize that uncertainty itself becomes sacred. It is the space where your soul and destiny meet. This naturally leads to the final step of the journey, living guided by wisdom, where trust and experience merge into a seamless flow. Here, the inner compass no longer feels separate from life itself. It becomes your natural way of being. You no longer just navigate uncertainty. You move through it with grace, understanding that every step, seen or unseen, is leading you home to yourself. Living guided by wisdom is the culmination of the journey through self-awareness, values, intuition, alignment, and navigating uncertainty. At this stage, the inner compass has matured, and your life becomes an ongoing expression of the deepest truths within you. You no longer live reactively, trying to conform to external expectations or chasing fleeting desires. Instead, each thought, action, and choice arises naturally from a place of clarity and authenticity. Wisdom here is not merely knowledge, it is the lived understanding of life's patterns, the ability to act with discernment, and the skill to harmonize your inner world with the outer reality. It is the state where knowing, feeling, and doing converge, creating a life that flows effortlessly yet purposefully. Living guided by wisdom means that decisions are no longer stressful or confusing because your inner compass is trusted. You act from alignment with your values and intuition, even when circumstances are uncertain. Challenges are seen as opportunities for learning rather than obstacles to success. You recognize that the outcomes of life are not always under your control, but your response always is. This understanding frees you from unnecessary struggle and brings a profound sense of peace. Life feels more coherent because every action is intentional and grounded in truth. The path forward is not dictated by fear or ego, but by insight and discernment cultivated over time. Wisdom also brings a deep integration of experience. Every mistake, detour, and lesson from the earlier stages becomes part of your inner library of understanding. You no longer resist or regret the past because you see how each experience contributed to your growth. Instead, you use these lessons to navigate new situations with greater clarity and skill. This integration allows for a confident, flexible, and compassionate approach to life. You understand that your inner compass is not rigid but adaptive, capable of guiding you through both calm and turbulence with equal steadiness. A key element of living guided by wisdom is balance. You act decisively when action is needed, yet you remain patient and reflective when the situation requires stillness. You are neither impulsively driven by desire nor paralyzed by fear. Instead, you respond appropriately to each moment, aware of the larger context and your deeper purpose. This balance extends to your relationships, work, and engagement with the world. You communicate clearly, set boundaries, and honor your own needs while also responding to the needs of others with empathy and understanding. Life becomes a harmonious dance between self and others, action and reflection, freedom and responsibility. Living guided by wisdom also requires humility. You recognize that you do not have all the answers, and that life will always present mysteries beyond comprehension. Yet, this humility does not diminish confidence. Rather, it enhances discernment. You understand that true guidance comes not from control, but from attunement to the deeper flow of life. By staying connected to your inner compass, you move through life with trust, knowing that even when the path is unclear, you are capable of responding with insight and integrity. This trust cultivates resilience, as challenges no longer threaten your sense of self but become opportunities to deepen your wisdom. Moreover, living by wisdom transforms your relationship with others. You inspire not through instruction or persuasion, but through presence and authenticity. Your choices, grounded in inner truth, radiate clarity and integrity. People naturally sense this alignment and are drawn to your energy. You are able to guide and support others without imposing or controlling, serving as a living example of conscious, authentic living. Your life becomes a source of inspiration not because of achievements or recognition, but because it reflects the harmony of inner knowing expressed outwardly. Finally, this stage is marked by a sense of fulfillment that comes from being fully aligned with your soul's purpose. You no longer chase external validation or compare your journey to others. Instead, every moment becomes an opportunity to express your truth, honor your values, and respond to life with presence. The inner compass, now fully trusted, guides you effortlessly, allowing you to navigate challenges, embrace growth, and move toward meaningful goals with confidence and grace. Living guided by wisdom is the embodiment of self-knowledge in action. It is the culmination of the journey where awareness, values, intuition, alignment, and trust converge into a life of coherence, purpose, and profound peace.